Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Back on with my lovely wife, Rivka. Rivka. I was going over just a little bit ago of what I wanted to talk about in this video, and she's like, "Do you have any good news to talk about?" I was like, "No, this is a doom and gloom video. This is a doom and gloom video."
So be warned.
Yeah. Well, and because, so Friday when I made the video for Friday evening, it was just like almost after that stuff started hitting the news wire. I think pretty significant things going on, and so there's just a whole stack of stuff here that I wanted to cover to kind of give you an update. So yeah, it's kind of a doom and gloom video. I mean, people just need to get ready. They need to wake up.
It's exciting.
Oh yes, it's so exciting. I guess before we get started, is there anything that you particular want to say? Add? I don't know. I'm catching you on the spot here, off guard.
Look, there's always something to be blessed by.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a cat saved this week.
No, like
grandma's
the
was helped
air
across the street.
that you're breathing, that you draw lung, like the oxygen that your lungs draw. Do you understand? No, I'm sorry, I'm tired. It's been a little bit of a long day, but just I want to go back to sleep.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely good things happen in the world.
Our children are healthy.
That's right. And
the sun rose.
So just because there's a lot of doom and gloom bad news, that's not necessarily negative. It's just what it is. And I think I think we should just use that to continually prepare ourselves and to understand how close we may be getting. And based on this stuff, we may be getting pretty close. So anyways, I guess the first thing, it's not necessarily a bad thing, in sort of ways. So there was a coronal mass ejection a couple of days ago or yesterday or day before from the sun. It wasn't what would be considered like an earth killer or anything like that. It was an M class solar flare, high M, like an M8.8 or something like that. But it was a long duration, and it was directly pointed at the Earth. So they're already saying that we're going to have a pretty bad geomagnetic storm. There could be the aurora borealis, the northern lights, could be seen as far south as Alabama.
Last time it was Texas.
Yeah, actually there was in Mexico. People were seeing it in Mexico. Right. And here's the thing.
It's weird.
With this stuff. I mean, I'm almost 50, and I can't remember, and I've lived in the South my whole life. I can't remember ever in my childhood.
In fact, I went to New Mexico one time 25 years ago, probably, and you could see it there, and it was rare that you should be able to see it there.
Right.
Like, I could see it because I was like up in the mountains, and I was like, what is that? And it was one of the years that it actually showed up
and
there.
it does happen, but it was very rare.
But that wasn't in Texas.
Right, and this has happened, what?
New Mexico.
3 times in the last 12 months?
It's very weird.
Something like that. The point is that, as I've said before, the magnetic field around the Earth is becoming weaker. And the weaker that gets, it means it could get worse for us. So this one that's hitting us, I don't think it means that you need to go throw everything in your Faraday cage and bury it in the backyard. But there could be some communications outages. I mean, look at what's happened in Spain and in France recently, where they've had grid failures. Mm-hmm. It's just getting worse. Is all I'm getting at is it's getting worse. Probably, in my opinion, the biggest thing that's happened in the news that's come out in the last 24 hours is not the trending thing in the news. I think it is extremely important. And some of you are not going to like what I have to say. So if you get your finger ready over that unsubscribe button, because there's already going to be people that are not going to like it. But it's pretty much a verified story at this point. I have been warning you that this Elon Musk Doge thing, it wasn't so much to make the government more efficient or to save money. It was to get humans out of the jobs and replace it with AI. And I think that what I'm about to say definitely, and it does, it ties in with that. So the news headline is Trump taps Palantir to create master database on Americans, on every American. Now, some of you already know who this company is. They're I would say if a company can be evil, they're in that list. You know, the same with, Bill Gates' his vaccine company and all that kind of stuff. This company has the reputation for doing some big brother, new world order stuff. The president, CEO of the company has bragged about their AI softwares being able to sway elections away from the conservative right in Europe, and that they were also used to promote the COVID pokey poke. So anyways, this is the company that Peter Thiel mentored J.D. Vance. That Peter Thiel was one of the founders of this company. So anyways, to get to what happened here is that the Trump administration has been contracting with Palantir to create these databases of illegals here in the United States. And that's one of the ways that they're finding a lot of these people. Sometimes it's accurate, and obviously sometimes it's not, because they've arrested and kicked out people that are
and
actually
I bet
American
some of
citizens.
you are wondering the same thing I did, because what was the first thing I asked? A database of what?
Database of what? So here's what they're doing. They're taking all of that, and remember with Elon Musk and Doge, how there's been these court cases of whether they have access to the databases, with Social Security and IRS and all that, and almost every one of them, I think they have gotten access to them. So the Doge people, they collected the data, people data, our data, and they're turning it over to Palantir, and they're creating a big master database. They're collecting bank account numbers, student debt information, medical claims, disability status, Social Security, tax information. They have already been given $113 million in contracts, and they are. That's not an end number. They're working on expanding. So based on the news information, is that 113 million seems to be just to kind of get it started, and there'll be more money coming. But this Palantir works a lot with the IDF. They offer tools in intelligence gathering, target analysis, and potentially assisting in battlefield planning. Their technology has been used to identify individuals who are likely to launch lone wolf terrorist attacks, facilitating their arrest preemptively before the strikes that would be carried out. So let's pause here. Remember, on basically day 2 of Trump being in office in the White House, and I've talked about this, I've showed the video, I showed it over on my Locals channel just a couple of days ago. They had Larry Ellison of Oracle, and he was talking about how this AI that Donald Trump is pushing very, very heavily will be able to basically, I mean, he didn't use these words, but have thought crimes. So they would be able to determine if you were likely to commit a crime, or they would be monitoring you, all these cameras and drones. And so if you did something that was wrong, and they would immediately know it.
Is that based on this? On your data?
No, but I think that it's all getting put together. I think that's what we're seeing. There's also a very, very high risk of this information being used to develop a type of social credit score system.
For sure.
When you add in the Real ID Act, and now Trump administration contracted with Palantir to create this mega database of everyone. I know a lot of people have said, oh, that already exists. No, it doesn't exist in this form. I mean, Elon Musk is right about one thing. The federal government is horribly inefficient. And so while they do have this data, it's in different areas. And so what this contract is doing is taking all of the data that the federal government has on us, Americans, and putting it all into one central database so that it could easily be accessed. So as it is now, if I want to look you up, in federal databases, I might be able to find your criminal history in the FBI. I might be able to find your tax history with the IRS. I might be able to find your Social Security with them. And, if you had any disability claims, this is putting it all together.
But it's going to put your medical data with that too.
Yes, all of it. It's putting it all together.
So designer cupcakes?
Yeah, this is,
you know what I'm talking
yes,
about?
this is,
that's my word.
this is, designer cupcakes. She's talking about the things that they put in your body. That's her little code word. This is scary stuff, okay?
Indeed.
I've already seen, I would estimate easily dozens of people online that are very overtly, outwardly supportive of Donald Trump, flat out saying, whoa, wait a minute. We did not vote for this. This is scary, scary stuff. This is very much New World Order, 1984. This is a big deal. But it should not come as a shock, because if you follow the breadcrumbs of having the biggest AI developers in the Oval Office on your first day on the job, teaming up with Elon Musk, all of this other stuff.
Nation that's moving this fast?
Well, the only other nation that is at least overtly talking about this is China. I mean, and of course they're way ahead of us, but other nations are, but probably not at the speed. I think it's.
Are we leading the way basically for the Western world?
That's what he says. Donald Trump has stated that the reason why he's pushing this is because he wants America to lead the world in artificial development, artificial intelligence development. So, anyways, moving on, because I think that's some scary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you all are probably familiar with Jamie Dimon. I've talked about him before. He's the CEO of the head of J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, probably one of the more powerful people on the planet, really. I mean, this is the guy that I would guess probably gives barking orders to the Federal Reserve. I don't think it's the other way around. The Federal Reserve exists for the banks, the big banks. And so this is like the big bank, the big bank. And this guy, I mean, like him or not, he talks about not just economic stuff, but about a lot of stuff. And this one's a weird one. I would never expected him to come out and say something this strange, but basically he talked a couple of days ago, and he said that the United States should not be concerned with stockpiling Bitcoin. This should not be their concern. That their concern should be stockpiling guns and bullets. Because, as he went on to say, that's the time that we're in. That we need to be stockpiling rare earth minerals. We need to be stockpiling drones, tanks, bullets, guns, because we are in an unstable world right now that, war is around the corner.
But he's specifically talking about the United States.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah. He was specifically mentioning the United States. So, yeah. So maybe you should listen to him and stockpile some guns and ammo if you haven't already. This one, another one that's probably going to upset some of the listeners on here. But so the tariff thing that the president, the Liberation Day, back in April or whatever, that he put out, it was supposed to have basically kind of this shock and awe campaign to get the rest of the world to come and say, oh, please, don't do this to us. We'll make out a trade deal. That doesn't seem to be happening. Several nations are kind of already backing away from the immediate reaction. And some people are saying it's because of the weakness of the back and forth. Tariffs are on, tariffs are off kind of thing. And one of the largest economies in the world, and has been one of our closest allies, Japan, has come out and said they're not interested right now in working any kind of trade deal. They're dropping the talks. They're backing away from the talks of a trade deal with the United States until the United States drops all the tariffs.
It actually says in this that Japan is not budging.
Yeah, they said they're not budging, and they're walking away from the trade deal talks until the United States drops the tariffs. So there's another big country, big, and I understand their economy is in shambles right now, but we are a big trade partner with them. and they're not seeming to be too afraid of a tariff. So maybe that's backfired. Also, I mentioned Jamie Dimon just a second ago. He also warned that the U.S. bond market will, in fact, start cracking under the rising debt. And this should be, and I've tried to explain it as best I can. The bond market, I mean, that's our debt. That's basically how the United States exists as an economy. If the bond market starts collapsing, the dollar will eventually follow, and we will be in an economic chaos. Speaking of tariffs, the president has announced a 50% increase on steel and aluminum tariffs, increasing that tariff from 25 to 50%. So, yeah, more tariffs on steel and aluminum. The president also stated today in video that if his big, beautiful bill does not get approved, that Americans will have a 68% tax increase. 68% tax increase. The bill is stalled right now in the Senate. Several Republican senators said that this bill is just horrible. It's evil. They've used all kinds of language to that effect.
You mean it's not
they
beautiful?
will? Yeah, it's not big, and it's big. I mean, it's not beautiful.
It's not big,
and because it increased spending at levels that, I mean, really has never happened before. It's insane. And so the president is now, it's almost threatening that, if this does not get passed, that taxes will have to go up 68% to cover the expenditures in that bill. So we'll see. Also, this one may not probably mean too much. He's just a war hawk anyways, but I thought I'd throw it out there. You remember General David Petraeus went on to be he was a CIA director. He's warning that if we don't stop Russia that in Ukraine, that we need to prepare for a broader war with NATO, because that's where it's moving. And in fact, I'm a little out of order here. There is Poland is basically entrenching themselves in the Kaliningrad area. They are building defenses, trench warfare type stuff. So it does look like that they are preparing for a more expanded war. North Korea says that it will support Russia with more troops in Ukraine. They just the other day shipped 20,000 crates, like train crates, loads of ammunition, artillery, missiles, and stuff like that. And now they're sending more troops over. And I know that everyone kind of laughs at that, because the reports were the first time that they sent troops over that the troops didn't do very well. I'm pretty sure that Kim Jong-un doesn't care. The ones that did live are now able to go back and train the rest of the military on, hey, this is what war's really like, because none of their soldiers have ever really, none of them have any experience whatsoever in war. And so his guys are getting combat experience. To me, that's the big thing. They're getting combat experience. And eventually they will start doing much better. But also what's important with this that I'm mentioning is because France's President Macron issued a warning to China and said, listen, if you don't control North Korea from assisting Russia in Ukraine, then we, NATO, will go over and start helping Taiwan. We'll start making a presence known down in the South Pacific. So more threats being thrown around.
And then if you do that, isn't there somebody else that, if you do that, then what are they going to do to retaliate?
Well, that's what it is. It's just it's this constant back and forth
if
retaliation.
You help Taiwan, then there was.
Well, China is threatening that the United States needs to back off from helping Taiwan. Says that they're playing with fire, and I'll get to more of that here in a minute, because there's a lot going on with Taiwan too. Senator Blumenthal, him and Lindsey Graham went on a trip to Ukraine. Who cares? But they've come back saying that they want to pass a 500% tariff on anyone who buys Russian oil or gas. This would be India, China. They buy Russian oil and gas. Now, I think that that's probably not going to happen, but right now, Donald Trump is pretty upset at Vladimir Putin in Russia, so it's possible, seeing that in the Senate there's support for it, he could possibly tack on a major tariff on any country that buys petrochemicals from Russia. So we'll see. Trump has also announced an increase in sales to Taiwan, and this is what we were just talking about. So they're increasing sales to Taiwan, and the reason is they're the Pentagon chief Pete Hegseth just recently, well, it came out yesterday, talked about what's going on over there in China and Taiwan and that part of Asia, and it didn't sound good. He came out warning that their Asian allies in the South Pacific need to very quickly upgrade their defenses. He's talking about how it looks like that there is an imminent threat from China. And he is, let me get it here. Here it is. He's warning of an imminent threat and is requesting immediate and urgent military buildups in the South Pacific. It's interesting. It's like attention is now being shifted over there. You know, it's been Russia and Ukraine, still kind of is, obviously Iran, and now Taiwan. Here's the thing. I think all three of those have a strong potential of the United States being directly involved in them. I think the United States is wanting to hold off on certain ones because they don't want to be involved in all three of them together. Because the United States knows that we cannot wage a three-front war.
Do you know, though, that we sat at your desk before and said the same thing?
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago we were talking about this.
Like 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Like 3 years, like a three-pronged war.
But China and Russia and Iran, they also know that. And so there's this to see who basically gets what they want. Are we going to see a war with all three of them at the same time? If we do, that's going to be devastating. It's going to be the only way that I think the United States could possibly, there would absolutely have to be a draft, and we would probably see wartime rationing, like what we did during World War II. It would be very different than any war pretty much anyone alive has seen, unless you're very old. We don't. I know that America, if pushed, has the capability of creating a lot of and building a lot of things, but we don't have the infrastructure anymore.
No,
we don't have the infrastructure
it would take a lot of time to set that
even to mine these raw materials. I know that the president has been pushing the company U.S. Steel to kind of get back into business and be another big steel producer, but the thing is he also helped work out a deal that Japan has bought that company. So it's not a U.S. company. It has the name U.S. Steel, but it's not a U.S. company anymore. And it's producing raw steel, kind of like we used to here in the United States, but it's owned by the Japanese. Moving on, Hamas has reportedly rejected the U.S. deal between Hamas and Israel. And then basically everything else is now focused on Iran. That is heating up quite quickly. Now remember, the president gave orders to the Pentagon for the U.S. military to no longer assist Israel, which I think that's all a big play, because we've also have reports of weapons being shipped very recently. Well, now that there's an AWACS flying over Iran, conducting surveillance missions, and the reason is because the UN's Atomic Energy Agency came out with a report, and this is interesting how they come out with this. They come out with this report that, in fact, Iran has been enriching uranium up to and above 60%. In fact, they're saying now they have a stockpile of over 408 kilograms of enriched uranium, that's capable of producing at least 10 nuclear bombs. Some reports are saying that they could have enough to maybe up to 20 or more. This agency is reporting that they're producing enough of this material to make one nuclear bomb every month. And they're also reporting that while they don't have any evidence that an actual nuke has been put together, they have all of the components to do it, and that they could put all the components together in less than a week or two. That everything is there. They have the nuclear material, they have the components, they have everything, because Iran does, they manufacture a lot of missiles, so they obviously have the delivery systems. All they have to do is just build the top piece of that missile, and they have a nuke. And so this energy agency is coming out, and so this is. I
warned you. I told y'all.
Yeah. So this is.
It's very doom and gloom.
It is. It's very doom and gloom. But most of us have already suspected that that's the case with Iran, that they have been developing it. The thing is right now it's just on a knife's edge of a big war. In fact, reports out of Israel is that Israel is planning on attacking Iran potentially as early as tomorrow. We will see. Iran is shutting down its airspace from June 1st, which is tomorrow, all the way through to the 4th.
Do they give an official reason?
No, they're said they're shutting it down for the potential deployment of missiles and drones. Saudi Arabia is reportedly frantically getting a hold of Iran, begging them to pretty much take the deal with the United States. The United States' deal is that not only do they have to get rid of all this nuclear material that they've developed, but they have to stop developing it, and they have to allow inspectors on a regular basis to come in and ensure that. Those inspectors found that they had 3 secret underground bases that they have been developing this nuclear material, even though all along Iran has been saying that they haven't. They're still saying that they haven't, but this UN agency is saying differently. Who's correct? I don't know. Probably both, probably neither. You never know. The point is the reaction to all this. Israel, I'd say it's a pretty good chance that Israel's going to strike Iran in the next probably 48 hours, 72 hours. That's not a promise. That's not a prediction. I'd say it's a good chance of it. If that happens, especially based on this information and based on the fact that Iran is still, as of this morning, saying that they will not accept the deal with the United States, and the president has said in the last 24 hours that if they don't accept that deal with the United States, things will become very, very bad for them. I think you'll see a very quick turnaround in the president in the United States, and we will be very actively supporting Israel attacking Iran. Now, if that happens, everything else could just start unraveling. It's possible. I'm not saying that it will. It could. The whole situation with Russia and Ukraine could start unraveling. The situation with China and Taiwan. Maybe that's why it appears that just in the last few days, our military, as well as others, are just rapidly getting ready, putting out warnings to get ready. Maybe they know that. Maybe it's nothing. But it looks like things are getting very, very close to destruction. And so we need to be prepared for that. I said the other day that even though, talking about Iran with the oil, and, the United States doesn't buy any oil from Iran, but Iran also controls the shipping routes over there that a huge bulk of the world's oil comes out of. Basically, all the oil, most of it that comes out of the Middle East, has to sail through Iranian waters. So they have the possibility of shutting that stuff down. That's one of the things that Saudi Arabia is worried about. Will they shut down their oil? So there's a lot of possibilities of things happening in the next few days. That doesn't mean that you should be terrified, that you should be scared and sticking your head in the sand or going and climbing in your bunker. It's just, we need to be aware of what's going on. And the fact that all of these wars, I think, while real and will change the course if they happen, I think they're still a distraction, or at least they're to push us down the road in a certain direction. And this stuff like this database that they're collecting of all Americans, that's the direction they're wanting us to go. And, if there was fear of attacks, fear of China attacking us, fear of terrorist attacks, and you've got all these tens of millions of illegals in the country, and we can't begin to round them up. So you know what we need? We need a national ID, which we already have now, And we need a national database so that we can ensure that Americans are safe. And it's like the Patriot Act 2.0. And of course, just like the Patriot Act, it'll be used to just steal away our freedoms. I mean, that's what it's done. And I think that's what we're going to see again.
What do you think the significance is, though, of the weirdness with the sun?
Oh, well, that's a whole separate thing. I've talked about that in the last week or so.
Did you?
Yeah, I think that I think that we've entered in already. The grand solar minimum that I've talked about before, a lot of people think that came and went. That's not true. Solar minimums and maximums come and go. Mm-hmm. They're in like an 11-year cycle. Grand solar minimums and maximums can last centuries. And
or decades.
Decades up to centuries. Yeah. Anywhere from 20 years to 200 or 300 years they can last. And I still believe that we are in one right now, and that the strong possibility that we are in the midst also of a pole shifting, which is also cyclical. That doesn't necessarily mean that the earth is going to tilt and that we're going to have 1,000-foot tidal waves. I know that there are theories out there on that. Those usually come from the theories of like a solar micronova event. And that could happen too. It's possible. The science is still kind of thin on that, but I think the main thing is that we are entering into a cataclysmic kind of stage of our planet. I think that's it. It coincides with biblical end time prophecy too.
Do you feel like that's part of all this chaos there?
Yeah. I think a lot of this chaos is
what this is distracting.
Yeah, these elites are in panic mode, and they're trying to do everything they can to ensure they are in power, and that when this is over, it's not Russia that's running the world, or that it's not China that's running the world, or that it's not the United States that's running the world. They're trying to develop the technology to control the people and to establish themselves as kind of the rulers.
Which is what the 15-minute cities would be.
15-minute cities.
Very beneficial for.
Yeah.
It's easier to not just control, but also, I mean, to be very fair, to protect.
Yep.
I think it's easier to protect, but like in a benign, like to make it look like it's a city, but then, I mean, I don't think that we have benign or benevolent overlords or anything. But
well, I think that's what all the AI and the robots and stuff is. They know that there's going to be and this is biblical, okay? You may disagree with this, but the Bible clearly talks about a massive population drop on this planet, right? It talks about a lot of people dying. And so if a lot of people die, who's going to do everything for them? So they've got to develop the technology to take that place, to take the people's place.
And even if that weren't the time that we are in, like if we are not in these times, it's still
this may not be the time that the Bible is speaking of like the end time of the Bible, but I do believe we are in that kind of cycle.
And if you don't like, all you have to do is like pay attention to what certain people say. Right. So like I think like 20 or 30 years ago, I'm trying to remember who it was, but he actually said, when we were young, when we were kids even, so like 40 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, there was somebody that said it's not the, melting. It's not the global warming that you need to be worried about. It's the freezing.
Yeah, it's the global cooling.
And I can't remember who said it, but it was a significant
I can't remember.
person.
Right.
And, like, it's just little snippets here and there, like little things that were said and are being said even now. I mean, to what end? Because you have to ask yourself, what is all this chaos?
Right.
Like, what's the goal?
Well, part of it is, I think there's always multiple goals.
I mean, there is like confusion and like chaos and like distraction from what may really be going on.
I think the other thing is that they know maybe some of the individuals may not get it. Satan understands that his time is coming short. And so he's got to do everything he can. I've talked about this before. I believe that Satan has to do everything. He believes he has to do everything he can to take as many people with him. Bible clearly talks about that Satan knows where he's going. He knows. Satan knows. It's not like he doesn't know what the future holds. He already knows what the future holds for him. And so it's not that he's trying to save himself. He's trying to destroy as many of us as he can.
I do think that there's
and I think that's what
major deception.
Right. These world leaders may not know that part of the plan, but that is what's going on. But they're trying to separate us from God.
I think that the goal, though, like all through Scripture from the beginning, whether it's the Satan or a type of anti-God, anything that has rebelled against God, has been, it's consistently spoken about from the beginning, in the middle, and then in the end of Scriptures. And one of the themes, I was just talking to you about part of this today, is always to be like God. And maybe there is a hope within that, the enemy, the opposite side, like there's good and then there's evil, that he might usurp and control, and more than just, I'm talking about, like the babies, the ones that are going to be made, and like they're not real. They don't have the breath of life. They don't have like. So to be like God is the ultimate goal, right. And maybe as a body, there is this hope that the end won't be like what they will become God. They will be like God.
Well,
they'll be more powerful than God.
That's what all these world leaders, these elites, they want to prove that they are gods.
They don't need the Creator.
This goes all the way back to, the Tower of Babel.
Maybe before.
Before probably. We can see like we're humans. Yeah,
he fell from, like when he rebelled.
Yeah, you can go. I'm sure back before Noah's time. Satan is able to deceive certain people and convince them that they can be as powerful as God, and that's what all this technology is. I believe that's what all this fake food is. That's what all the nano robot self-replicating.
We don't need him. And
we don't need God anymore. We don't need God anymore.
That like they've deceived an individual. I think that there are, it is like these are sons of Satan.
Right.
These are like not the sons of God.
Right. So yeah, I think that's what a lot of
your father, the devil.
What all
right?
this stuff is. Yes.
What like they're he's the father of like. What is it? The son? I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I think it's Matthew. But, where it talks about how you are not of God.
Right.
And you are the sons of... I can't remember if... maybe I'm confusing a couple. But, when Jesus cast out the demons,
mm-hmm.
and then they went into the pigs, right?
Right.
And then they tried to say that what he was doing was evil, like it was sorcery. And that's when he was like, what you're saying is that evil is good and good is evil. But anyway, my point is that that conversation in conjunction with the sons of the devil, the old, what is it? Like ancient, the old devil or that old devil or whatever. Anyway, you guys can tell me what that is. I don't know, maybe. I'm going to leave this conversation now and go find it. Maybe I'll come post it.
But yeah, I think that's kind of where we're headed.
We're not, they're not children of light. They're not children of God. They're not children of truth, Mm-hmm. Maybe light, but the wrong light.
Well, yeah. False light, false hope, false peace, that kind of stuff. Well, so there's your doom and gloom video for your Saturday evening.
But I was like, no, there's hope, like every day we're blessed.
Well, of course, and we should, the scripture tells us that we should we should actually feel blessed to live in this time, to live under persecution, that we should count it all joy. And so we should not be depressed and sad and living fearfully, because this is the time that we live in. We should consider it a time for us to see great and wondrous things. And I think that we as his children are going through a refining period that probably humans have never gone through before.
Right. Even if, like, because I think that, like, we've had periods before that, like, that they really thought they were in times, like Nero, and, like, there were just a lot of, I mean, I've read accounts of things like that happening even in the 1920s and 30s, and like
basically every generation since Yeshua has felt that we were living in the end times.
But I mean, I know that there's a lot more going on now than there has been in recorded history, but I tend to believe that, like, even if we are not in the time of the Messiah, of Messiah returning, I do believe that, like, it's another, at least a wave of this type of serious
it's
stuff.
getting us closer to that.
Yeah, because I think that we are very much in, like, the days of Noah.
Yeah, that's what, you know,
or like
that
Babel.
we're in those birthing pains. You know, it's like I say with AI.
When DNAs were mixed.
Yeah, I don't think that necessarily that AI is the beast system, but I think it is the building blocks for that. I think that's what the beast system will be.
Part of it
will be, you know, built upon. So, all right. You've yawned about a dozen times in this video, so I think we'll probably get off of here. So you can either go take a nap, or
I just need some oxygen.
Go to bed, or drink some coffee.
Coffee too.
All right, folks. Well, thank you all for watching again on another Saturday evening. Maybe the next one we do together, it won't be quite
earlier and not as dark,
as
gloomy,
dark and gloomy. But hey, I can't tell you. I can't.
You report the good stuff though too, right? Like,
what? Since when do I do that? No, I try to make a positive, uplifting video at least once a week.
But there are, like, stories that, like, you've got, like, I mean, it's probably been a minute since I've read one, but, you know, like, of leaders.
Yeah.
And I'm not
once
talking
in a
about,
while,
like,
something good happens in this world.
I just mean something significant, like, that's big. There's a lot of really good things that happen on a smaller scale. But, like, do you remember in 2020 with the priest that came out, and was he an archbishop or something, and he came out very much against, like, what was going on and the tyranny and all of that stuff, like that, like somebody just standing up and bucking the system. Or
unfortunately, now that
I think a lot of people
they're really duped by what's going on,
or scared to speak out.
In fact, since this story broke on Palantir creating this big database, I've actually been surprised at some of the comments online of people trying to make excuses for it. Well, Trump's doing this. Well, is it?
No.
Yeah. Anyways, all right, we're gonna get off of here. You folks have a great evening.
Talk to you.
Get your houses
in order.
I won't
talk to you later, but you will.
Prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.